60 Plus Racing Adventures is the sim racing league for the seasoned and veteran sim racers out there. All of the drivers today are 60 years of age and sometimes quite a bit over, but their passion for sim racing is as strong as anyone. The racing they put on, absolutely fantastic. And halfway through this championship, we find ourselves at Road America, a very big, very large, high-speed sports car track, and that is going to put on some great racing in this Indy Pro 2000 open wheeler that all of our drivers are going to find themselves behind the wheel of. 2 races today. It's going to bring the excitement and the action here in 60 Plus Racing Adventures on RaceSpotTV. Well, race 1 is not far away. I'm David Haynes. Alongside me is the brains trust of the operation, Paul Smith.
That's the first time I've ever been accused of that, but hello everybody. Yes, it's certainly going to be a slipstream fest, I think is the fair thing to say about this circuit. Long straights, we've got sweeping corners as well. It's one of my favourite tracks in North America, if I'm honest. And yeah, it should be some really good, entertaining racing here tonight for you.
Yeah, it's a real gem out there. A long track, almost as long as Bathurst or Spa. Not quite, but definitely a big lap. Lots of corners, quite a few long straightaways. The pit straight, then the one we were just looking at underneath the Cheese Bridge, and then also the run down to Canada Corner. So that provides a lot of overtaking opportunity, provides a lot of slipstream opportunity. But then there's also some great corners in between. We've got the Carousel and the Hurry Downs and underneath the Corvette Bridge, and plenty of different corners, a bit of elevation change out there, and all of that combines for some great racing. There is the Carousel. Very high speed in these open wheelers with a bit of grip, a little bit of downforce, and not too much weight to carry along either.
Yeah, they're a relatively lower powered Formula car. It's not the lowest powered Formula car that we have in the Indy sort of range, but it still provides plenty of fun. It's got just enough downforce that you feel it in the corners, but you're not affected too much by closely following behind others out there on track.
Yeah, indeed. So as qualifying wraps up, we're not far away from taking the grid, getting race 1 of 2 underway. And of course, once again, the points situation for this championship is 2 races, and your best result of that 2 from the afternoon, from the evening, is the points you carry into the championship. And here is how they're going to start for race 1. Mike McCormick on pole position, defending champion. John Morgan in second. And then Leroy Coppage third, Donald Fitterer fourth. As you can see, these lap times just over 2 minutes at this circuit. Then we go to 5th on the grid, which is Bruce Granheim, Donald Poole in 6th, Kenneth Baldwin in 7th, Stefan Roestgen, a several-time previous champion, in 8th, Randy Shoemaker in 9th, Russ Addy in 10th, Paul Stump in 11th, and John Unsby in 12th.
Yeah, further down your grid then, Greg Garris, Matt Robertson, Greg Gilman, Kenneth Dummer, with David Sestella, Urs Muller, Gerardus Jorison. We always get this one, get my teeth back in just to be able to pronounce that. Richard Varley rounding out 20th with Lewis Cannell, Bob Kern, Jack Turner and Barry Hills rounding out 24th. A
very well stacked grid here as it continues. 25th with Douglas Beasley, and then a little further, Bruce Poole 29th, Gianni Rispaldo 30th, Michael Bailey 31st, Richard Coulomb in 32nd, Oyvind Anderson 33rd there, Dev Donnelly 34th, Gerard Florison 35th, Robert Isle 36th, John Isles 37th, Jerry Kerr 38th, Gene Moore 39th, Richard Franco 40th, and it continues with Wendell Lowe, Wally Molesby, Kurt Messick, Pierre Dionne. And what a grid. Everyone loves Road America. Yeah,
they certainly do. It's a favourite amongst the drivers, and certainly one that they look forward to. But well, you alluded to it. There's the schedule up on screen. So they were at Belle Isle last week in this championship. This is one of our 3 live broadcasts here for round 6 at Road America. Go to Circuit Spa, that'll be another slipstream fest, and Interlagos, to be fair, is another slipstream track. Mid-Ohio, Barber Motorsports Park, Mossport, and then the final round of the championship, which will be showing live here on RaceSpotTV at Watkins Glen. But we've got some championship standings to update you on as well.
Yeah, let's have a look there. Russ Addy, 178 points ahead of Leroy Coppage and John Morgan. Wow, those are 3 drivers at the top of the points that we didn't really see in the mix at the end of last season in this same car. But maybe they've adapted, warmed themselves up to the Indy Pro 2000.
Yeah, they certainly seem to have got themselves adjusted, although last season's champion Russ Addy up there at the top of your standings with a little bit of a margin. But yeah, you look at that that middle of the second all the way down to the bottom of the top 10. It's all really close, really tight up in that field, and really you normally want to have at least one contender from to challenge your championship leader, but right now you've got multiple people all around that same mark, and Russ Addy's just outscoring them just that little bit week on week.
Yes, certainly is. So that adds a level of intrigue and interest. We said it's a big lap around here, and they are doing the full pace lap as is typical for Road America, and this gives everyone a good chance to get just a little bit of heat into those tyres potentially, because we know at the start of the race, the characteristics of the car, the balance, you can't push 100% until maybe somewhere along in lap 2 or maybe even lap 3, when the tyres warm up, come up to pressure and give a little bit more grip.
I mean, we'll just bring up the graphic again here to show we run the same weather, both races, so equal opportunity for these drivers to get used to it. But look at the track temperature then. The figure just circling there, 95 degrees Fahrenheit. That's almost in the 40 degrees Celsius range. That's about high 30s in Celsius. So these drivers are going to be contending with really, really hot track conditions out there, and it's going to be a challenge for them here.
Yeah, I mean, we're looking at 16 laps of a 4-mile circuit, so it'd be possible to start overworking those tyres and have the grip go away from you by the end of the race if you come out of the gates all guns blazing and really wrestling the car around and wearing those tyres down potentially. So that's one to look out.
Well,
high temperatures on track.
Yeah, I was just going to quickly mention that the run out of turn 3, the run out of turn 5, you've got heavy braking and then acceleration. You're putting a lot of load through those tyres in them points.
Certainly, I think about your poor front left tyre through the carousel as well there. That just eats and eats and eats at the tyre. But here they're turning back onto the pit straight. Our beautiful Porsche safety car will pull away. It's Mike McCormick and John Morgan at the front row of the grid. And engines fire into life for the first race of the round. Across the start-finish line we go to start 16 laps of Road America in 60-plus racing adventures. Long run towards turn 1. Mike McCormick maintains the lead. But for second, great run from Leroy Coppage, and he's gotten himself ahead of John Morgan.
Issues for Baldwin. Oh, we've got more issues at turn 1 as well. So a few drivers having dramas at turn number 1, but well, we've got 4 drivers who have taken the tour back to the pits at the start of this one. But down to turn 5, it's a downhill braking zone. Easy to outbrake yourself. But Leroy Coppage just staying in line for the time being as we go 2 wide with Paul Stump.
Yeah, indeed, we do battle over 9th and 10th there. Stump looks like he might just lose out on that one to John Unsby. So riding on board now with Paul Stump. Good run towards the hurry downs then though. And he's not going to let John Unsby get away with this one.
Oh,
as
we've got a car off in the gravel. Car off in the gravel.
Yeah, Donald Fitterer.
If ever somebody had bad luck, it's Donald Fitterer in this championship. He really does not have any luck at all, because he started this race up there in that front pack, and yeah, 4th place he started this race, and he's now taking the tour back to the pits already.
Yep, big grid, plenty of drivers still racing, but quite a few have had some lap 1 dramas out there. Could it be cold tyres? Could it be the pack racing, or some combination there? Look, Unsby is now under pressure from Randy Shoemake, having ceded position to Paul Stump. He's starting to break away from this second pack. You can see Greg Garris, Greg Gilman, David Costello also in line here to slipstream up behind John Unsby, keep the pressure on.
They are across the line, they'll come here. And this is the beauty of this championship. You have battles happening all the way down your field here, so plenty of action to watch. And just behind there is Muller and David Costello going side by side. Costello moving up a position there, up into 13th place for him. There's Muller thinking about trying to get the cutback. But these drivers, week on week, are getting more and more experience in this Indy Pro 2000 car, as here comes Donald Poole on Bruce Granheim.
So it is, looking at 4th and 5th, Donald Poole I think has been successful in grabbing 4th place there, and then he's right behind John Morgan for a podium position as well. All action, but he gets a big wiggle over the top of the crest, loses a bit of time, manages to just hold on to his position. But that just goes to show that while there's not giant amounts of elevation change around here, there are a couple places like that where the elevation catches you out, especially descending into and then ascending out of turn 5 there.
Had issues for Richard Valley, we're still having issues for Richard Valley here, off of the track. We'll try and get a quick look at what's happened to him. So this is going to be up at turn 6 in his National Guard car. And up the hill, oh dear, is that going to be a car just to reappear? He's giving space, but a little bit too much space into the grass and the gravel. Fortunately for Richard though, keeps it out the wall.
Yeah, incredibly generous to a fault in how much room he was giving there. Send him out onto the grass. Did do well to avoid that barrier, as we saw. Now he's back and racing. Bit of a 3-car battle to one of the 3rd overtaking opportunities on the lap at Canada Corner. And at that Canada Corner, this looks like a battle and potentially a position that swapped Bruce Poole and Barry Hills.
Yeah, those two duking it out back here. Of course, not forgetting, we've got the repro. This is the slightly improved track as well, don't forget, here at Road America. I always forget that it's been had an update. And certainly does look really good in its new lick of paint and bit of artwork changes throughout the track. But yes, out here gives some great racing this track. And Russ Addy, your current championship leader, is under pressure. But speaking of under pressure, Randy Shoemake and John Unsby battling it out side by side. There's a side by side behind as well.
Yeah, indeed they are. John Unsby is very, very brave on the brakes, but that might be too brave. Far too brave there. Randy Shoemake holds on, so they go 3 wide behind that. My goodness, everyone survives, but David Costello has been ever so brave there and picked up another position away from Greg Garris. We saw him battling with Urs Muller. Now he's gone and grabbed one more. Might be looking forward at Greg Gilman and John Unsby soon.
Yeah, we seem to have a little bit of a queue of cars here in this portion of your field, and these drivers working their way through the carousel. Those cars will be feeling the understeer through there, and then of course after you've loaded up that tyre for so long through there, you've then got to load it up again through the kink. This is not an easy corner and catches so many people out.
The grass ever so tempting and the walls very, very close, and then you come to one of my favourite corners here, Canada Corner. It's got a bit of a crest to it, got to try and maybe pick up a late apex. That doesn't trouble any of the drivers here on lap 3. You can see Shoemake there starting to come under pressure from Unsby and Gilman coming along with it. This all for 9th place. It's been a lead battle all throughout this race so far as well, though, and there's never been more than a second between McCormick and Coppedge at the front. Oh, look, going for a break in the toe. That lets you know how powerful the slipstream has been when Randy Shoemake decides to move across there. Just make one move to break the slipstream.
Yeah, he's determined to just try and keep the cars behind out the slipstream, try and hold on to that place. But John Unsby, we've seen him in previous races here. It just really does a fantastic job. Gets involved in a few incidents, but John, a very, very experienced driver here in this series, and knows what these drivers are like out there, and puts on a good show for us here as he's putting the pressure on Randy Shoemake into turn number 6.
Yeah, no problems under brakes into turn 5, unlike the other laps. So John Unsby gets right stuck into Randy Shoemake. Almost looked like he was going to have a look up the top of the hill, which you can do, but it is a bit of a short shoot between the two corners, so you've got to have a great run, rely on a mistake, and also be very brave. Didn't feel he was quite close enough to do that. And right-hand corner, long loaded right-hand corner. And a bit like Sunset Bend, I'm never quite sure that there is a perfect line through there, or I've ever achieved something like that.
Oh, I don't get it right consistently lap after lap. Unlike some people, it's always a bit hit and miss for me. But then again, there's a reason why I'm behind the microphone here and not out there driving. Well, that and the fact that I'm not of the age for this championship. But these drivers, John Unsby, now he's having. Yeah, not yet. I'm getting there slowly. One day at a time. As John Unsby now coming under intense pressure from Greg Gilman behind. So instead of attacking Randy Shoemake, he's now desperately trying to hang on to that slipstream to keep a hold. But here comes Costello as well now on Gilman. So Gilman's now having to go defensive and attacking at the same time.
Yeah, all kicking off, isn't it? The double draft, very effective for Costello. Now, around the outside of turn 1 can be done, but he's gone in way, way, way too hot. They're finding the grass and the gravel and losing all of his hard-earned positions. David Costello was brave for that move, but it didn't stick.
Yeah, it just wasn't quite on for David there. We'll have another look this time from on board. So here we go then, into turn 1. He's going to brake light. Greg Garris gets out of it. Costello having to give space. Runs out wide. It's not a clean line out there. You will push out wide. That's exactly what's happened to David. Did well to keep it in a straight line though, across the grass. Especially as the walls begin to narrow underneath the bridge there after the corner. So you've got to get back towards the track, otherwise you'll find yourself missing some wheels, putting some damage on your car. Here is battle for the podium positions. Coppedge had a scruffy lap last time, lost a handful of time from the lead, now finds himself under pressure from John Morgan. Still finds himself under pressure from Donald Poole in 4th as well, so 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th in your picture. Stefan Roestgen's come from 8th to be on the grid to be in 5th place at the back of this little forecast crowd. Isn't it good to see Stefan up there? A multiple-time champion from the old Pro Mazda days, now with this Indy Pro 2000. Look at that snap that Donald Poole got on the exit of the final corner. This is where Roestgen now gets that run, uses the slipstream, will pull out to the right, but this is where Poole will be hoping that the slipstream is strong enough from the cars in front to keep him ahead, and yeah, Roestgen having to just back out of that one.
Yep, still sent Poole in a little bit hot, but Roestgen, by backing out early, gave himself the line he wanted to get a good exit, keep himself in the fight. Now Poole has a good run through 2 and 3 though, and it's all bets on once again. 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and Russ Addy not far behind there in 6th place either as we look backwards from John Morgan.
Yeah, Morgan then looking back, and Roestgen putting the pressure on Poole. Poole running a little bit wider on corner exit out of turn 5 there. Into 6. Tricky corner is 6 because you're hitting the brakes just as you go over the crest. So easy to lock up a brake there. 7. Downhill into 8. try and hook the car in here on the left, use the camber, and then through the carousel. Different lines taken by different drivers, so you see how Poole was hugging nice and tight in early on, whereas Morgan decided that we're on board, just decided to run out just a little bit further wide. And then the incredible, well, it's flat out round here in this car, but the kink there, such a tricky corner, but look at Poole under the gearbox.
Absolutely, Morgan goes defensive to Canada corner. Poole around the outside, finds himself with no room left out there. And then under pressure from Stefan Rostjen. So well defended from John Morgan. Didn't panic. And then still found himself on a good line through the corner. No problems there, but on board from the nose of Stefan Rostjen, it is a 1, 2, 3 triple toe behind the battling drivers in front, underneath the start-finish line gantry there where Barney does his best work.
Yeah, absolutely. He's waiting patiently for the end of the race. Well, for the white flag before the end of the race. But yeah, these drivers all together. No moves being made yet. And Russ Addy at the back of them is lapping a little bit quicker than this queue of cars. So Addy now is really coming into pace and he's catching up. And I think he'll be in that slipstream. Yeah,
Russ Addy was fastest of all on that lap just gone. 2 minutes 0.6 puts him only a tenth or so shy of the pole qualifying time. And they continue to just feel each other out as well in this battle here, which might be costing them a little bit of time. Help him close up, because we've seen Morgan have to defend. He might have to defend once again, and Rostjen also back out of some moves in the last lap or so.
These drivers, you can see how little aerodynamic devices there are in this car. You've got the floor of the car, you've got the wings, relatively simple wings, so it means that you can run that little bit closer to the drivers around you. You're not as affected by that slipstream, by the dirty air. But you will feel a little bit of aero push. You will feel that push through the corners. Look at this, Morgan to the inside of Coppage. Gets the job done. Coppage doesn't get the cutback. So nice job up in second place for John Morgan.
Made it look easy there, just down the inside. No problems making the corner whatsoever. John Morgan up into second, or should I say back into second. That's where he qualified, and then lost it on the run to turn 1, lap 1. Finds himself back in second place. And just 1.9 seconds away from the lead as we cross halfway.
Yeah, he was almost half a second. In fact, he was half a second quicker than your race leader on the last lap across the line. Stefan Rostjen, by the way, has got the fastest lap of the race overall. Oh, as actually we've got an incident for somebody out there, and he's taking the tow back to the pits. It's Robert Hill. So something's happened to Robert out there. We'll have a quick look and get back to live pictures.
So the run from the carousel and the kink down towards Canada corner. Looking in the mirrors a little bit maybe. And, well, it's all fine still here. Putting the power down, though, I think it's gotten away from him. And there's a reason they put that tyre barrier on that side of the circuit. So he's lost the rear somewhat. And it's gone around into the wall.
Morgan has lost second place again. That was moved down into turn number 5 that we missed while we were having a look at that replay for you. So, Morgan, that's the problem with this track. If you make the move into Canada corner, well, there's plenty of opportunities for the other drivers to be able to make those moves back again. And Stefan Rostjen actually in 4th place, Donald Poole down to 5th. So Rostjen on a bit of a charge here to try and move forward in this field.
Yeah, all chopping and changing here, as you say. John Morgan going back a spot, Rostjen coming forward a position. But still with plenty of laps, plenty of opportunity left in race 1. McCormick, amongst all of that, has just been able to add a couple tenths of a second to his lead. Just push it over that 2-second gap where he can be confident He's not giving any assistance to the drivers in second and third. There'll be no slipstream there. That's a nice little air gap between first and second. He needs to keep it that way. Problems. Wally Molesby. That car looked just a little bit sad. This is what happened to
This will be on the
driver
exit
from out west in the USA.
Yeah, this is on the exit of turn 8. Just getting the power down. So I think what we're starting to see here is the effects of the hot track temperatures. And the drivers have been pushing these cars quite hard. Oh, is Stefan Rosjan pushing, running wide there into turn 5 as Russ Addy has made a move as well. So all of a sudden Russ Addy up into 5th place. So moves starting to make here, but I think that whoever looks after the tyres best here will have the best opportunity coming towards the end of the race.
I'd find it absolutely believable if the rear tyres were starting to go away a little bit in some of the corners, in some of the traction zones. It is still hot on track. There's some long loaded corners. There's quite a few traction zones out the corners as well. Maybe that's what we are starting to see, as well as these positions here amongst the top 5. Chopping and changing ever so slightly. Deeper in the field, dramas.
That was just somebody getting out of the way of this queue of cars, because we've got Kenneth Baldwin, we've got Urs Muller, and we've got Bob Kern just in front of them. Just in front of them as well as David Costello and Greg Gilman. So Greg Garris and John Unsby have been able to pull away from Gilman here. But yeah, a little three-car train, good if I could get those words out, here battling in the mid-teens.
Indeed, very, very healthy grid numbers for this race. Over 40, as we saw. So no shame to be within the top 20, really. Find yourself in the top half of the field, you've done something right and presumably had a relatively clean race, as we're looking at 15th and 16th on board with Kenneth Baldwin. Focus forward in the highest gear in a double toe. You can see he almost gets close to the rev limiter in that double toe.
Yeah, and that'll be a little bit frustrating for him. Of course, it's a fixed setup in this championship, so every car out there has got the same setup. So this is very much all about the driver's skill and ability here in this car, in this field today. And you see that time and again in this championship how everybody's able to be on such an even keel and an equal footing. I don't know what's happening to me. It's you that's had to wake up early, David, not me.
You're sounding a little possessed. Paul sus, if you ask me. But with the fixed setup, I think the key there isn't, tyre pressures or, suspension geometry. It's the fact that on a high-speed track like this, it's equal gearing, equal downforce levels across all of the cars. And that alone keeps the racing very equal and very much on being consistent, good exits out of all of the corners, is that everyone's got the same wing levels, same ride heights, and the same gearing.
Yeah, and as I said, that's what makes it so good. As Russ Addy's actually lost the position to Donald Poole, so he's ended up gifting that position back again. And these drivers all been pretty close. That's just back markers getting out of the way of John Morgan and Leroy Coppage at the front of your field. So Russ Addy now back down to 6th. But with laps starting to tick on by, we're into the last portion of this race. And drivers now, if they're involved in a battle, oh my goodness, that's a heavy
race car bits for the souvenir collectors strewn across turn 1. And this is how, looks like might have been getting back onto the racing line. I was going to say maybe being off the racing line was unfamiliar territory and might have distracted Oyvind Anderson, but there you go, in a little bit hot, a little bit of the grass, rear snaps around, and it would have been a wake-up call to all 4 of those marshals. That guy's getting a better view there, and what a great view he did have in that position. That is, well, I think one of the wheels stayed on the wagon there.
Yeah, one did, yes. As running wide there was Leroy Coppage, and here comes Rusgen down the inside of the carousel. That's not very often seen as an overtaking move, but Rusgen taking the advantage of that, and here comes Donald Poole as well. So all of a sudden, Leroy Coppage could be losing 2 places. No, Poole's had to slot back in.
Yeah, unfamiliar territory going too wide through the carousel there. Down the inside, I guess, is the shortest run, near enough at flat out, and Russ Addy is going to be brave to the inside of Canada corner there. Roastgen had to cede that one to Coppage and still side by side through Canada corner. Flick across the top of the hill here that's named after your favourite soap opera star. And then back around the outside of the final corner, Addy and Poole. 3 corners in a row
Coppage
there in drama.
Leroy Coppage, well, he's managed to keep it out of the wall there. Flicks it around, back up and running. Gerald Florison's, by the way, gone taking a tour back to the pits. What on earth has happened to Leroy Coppage there then?
Well, it's a classic case of ambition ahead of adhesion, I would say. Through the final corner there, really just tracking all the way out and then some. I think he just had half of the width of the outside tyres on the grass beyond the paved stuff, using all of the road and then too much. Found out that the grass contains not a lot of grip.
Did actually a good job to keep the car out the wall as Poole and Addy carry on their battle here down into turn number 5. But yeah, it did a very good job to initially hit the brakes, lock them up, and then let it turn and roll before braking again. So it kept him out the wall. So quick thinking there, but that does the moving down to 8th place now in the race as Addy all over the back of Poole, but that's allowed Stefan Roosgen to be able to pull away here.
And I don't want to alarm you, but the track temperature has risen a whole degree Celsius as well out there. So it's not getting any cooler as the tyres, I think, are starting to get away from their best potentially, especially if you're exciting the rear of the car through some of the corners, taking more angle. Can really wear them down. Russ Addy wasn't sure which way he was going to go there. Middle of the road for Donald Poole, but it's not enough to stop Addy now around the outside. Well, now they're no longer side by side like they were for corners and corners and corners a lap ago.
That actually, to be fair, that's a really good move that Russ has made there. He's had to commit to the outside line, and then that allows you to get on the power earlier than the competitor who's on the inside, and that's exactly what he's done. Got on the power nice and early, got the drive out the corner, but Donald Poole is in that slipstream. We're on to lap 13, so don't count him out here. And in fact, is he going to sit behind now? Is he waiting for the last lap? No, he's having a look.
You were ready to give them so many props on, you know, the patient waiting game, and that's not what's going to be played, doesn't seem. So the trains have broken up a little bit in some places. Erzmuller in the wall. Costello.
I think he's just found out that he's lost a wheel.
Yeah, there was a secondary spin there as he found that the suspension had been very, very radically aligned. Here is what happened, though, in the battle there with John Unsby.
Yeah. So down
the outside of one.
Yeah. Running wide. He just clipped that tyre wall. And then he's going to put his foot down, and then, nope. There's no adhesion there with only 3 wheels on your wagon.
Sort of a reverse Reliant Robin situation for him, unfortunately, in that battle. So your lead is 5 seconds clear, and then it's 2 car battles for 2nd and 3rd, 4th and 5th, 6th and 7th. This one, 4th and 5th, you can see, and then just up the road, Stefan Roostjen has gotten himself to 2nd place.
Yeah, done a fantastic job this race, Stefan. What was it, 8th place he started? Fantastic job there from the multiple-time champion, the man who was the king of the old car, the Pro Mazda. Well, this car now, I think it's starting to come into his favour here. It's finally getting to the swing of things, and that spells danger for everyone else out there in this field, because we've seen how quick and how rapid Stefan Rosjan is. But here comes John Morgan. He's not giving this one up without a fight.
Yeah, certainly isn't. Has his nose in front round the outside, and Rosjan maybe just lets him have that one for the moment, but he's the driver that almost everyone else compares himself to in this championship. Back to back to back to back sort of championships on the run there, more than anyone else. The Rossi of this championship, the Joey Chestnut of 60 plus racing adventures, but Gerhardus Jorrison has not those accolades to his name, at least today. This final corner has been catching drivers out as we've gotten deeper into the race. I don't think of it as the most difficult corner on this track, but maybe that's where it's getting them.
Well, hitting the grass on the outside won't help not once, but twice. Oh, and then gets collected. And off he goes then into the grass. Yeah, hitting the grass twice is not going to help matters there in your race. And
I'll tell you what, I mean, I've seen every wheel come off from every corner. I've seen front wings and rear wings get dislodged. That's the first time I've seen the engine cover come off in one piece. So we are pushing the boundaries of Indy Pro 2000 science here today.
We're also pushing the limits of the new damage model as we head on towards the final 2.5 laps here. By the way, this is Paul Stump and Bruce Granite. Granite was just fallen back a little bit throughout this race, it appears to me. I mean, he started 5th, now 7th, so he's lost a couple of positions. Surely they wanted a little bit better run than this, but still, good points so far, although, as you mentioned at the top of the show, David, it's your best result from one of the 2 races here. Not you both combined, it's one of the 2.
Yep, indeed. Interesting little strategy there from Granheim, pulling out of the toe of his competitor to grab the slipstream of a lap down car before then dropping in behind Paul Stump. No points for fastest lap, so we're not going to say Granheim's just saving his tyres for a last lap run at glory there.
Well, back to this battle for second place. Stefan Rosjan and John Morgan. John Morgan, by the way, I just heard, lifting off the throttle. I think he's now playing that waiting game. He wants to make that move on the last lap.
Maybe it's your Canada corner, maybe a great run out the final corner, because it's a long run uphill to the start-finish line. How many races have we seen at Road America where the driver who leads into the final corner isn't the driver who gets to the line first?
Oh, it's countless. The amount of times we have to get the helicopter cam out to see the cars across the line, it provides great racing and a great opportunity for a last dash to the line. It's a long enough run in the slipstream to make that work as well, which is really good as they come through. The kink, I'm just listening to John's throttle. Yeah, he's backing off again. He's waiting for that last lap.
Well, you don't get to 60 plus without having a little bit of patience, so once you're there, maybe you still got it. But Randy Shoemake, no front wing, front right tyre is at the jaunty angle, so here's what happened for the Texan.
Oh, John!
No!
Oh! Not what you need. And we're going to stay on replay because Donald Poole is at a standstill out there on track. And in fact, he's taken a tour back to the pits. We'll go back to live action in just a second.
So for Donald Poole, who was battling in the top 5, where do the woes begin in the final corner? Well, we've seen that before, haven't we? Just too wide, over the curb, over the runoff, touch of the grass.
And look at Russ Addy now. He's going for a second place here as Russ.
The 300 IQ 4D chess gamesmanship between Morgan and Rosjan is going to come undone and spoiled by the arrival of Russ Addy, who's put Rosjan back a spot, is now shaping up John Morgan when there's 2 drivers battling for the position. You can count back the laps and the corners, but once it's 3, that's the wild card in the game. Russ Addy, huge head of steam. There's just a car width down the inside. No, there's not. Contact Addy and Morgan. Morgan goes flying. Front left for Russ Addy. What kind of state is that in?
I think he's going to carry on and just try and get to the end there. Oh, that's heartbreak. That really is heartbreak. That was... but the gap was always closing, but he had the wheel there. Here comes Rustian then to the inside. We'll go to your leader in a second, but there's a change position for second place. But yeah, we've got to go to the leader as they're going side by side because he is coming in to the last corner.
Yeah, untroubled from pole position. Mike McCormick leading 16 of 16 laps. He's going to take the win and maximum points from Road America, but 5.5 seconds behind is Russ Addy, who's got his nose in front of Stefan Rostian, and it will stay that way to the line. Rostian on the podium, Russ Addy for second, deeper in the field, looking for Greg Garris, Kenneth Baldwin, Bob Kern, and the like. I don't see any of these changing on the way to the line, but close stuff for 16 laps of Road America.
Certainly was, as Randy Shoemaker's taken his fast repair, by the way, so he managed to drive the car back to the pits, got his fast repair, and is into 21st ahead of Richard Franco and behind Douglas Beasley. And I'm happy to say that Beasley, he's got a couple of corners to go yet, but he always seems to have issues on the stream, doesn't he, Douglas? And he's just got this last corner to go around. Just get up the hill, Douglas, and you've got yourself a really, really good top 20 finish here.
Weave. He wants to hold on to that one. I don't think it's quite in doubt at this point. So he's going to lock in top 20. Shoemaker in 21st. Richard Franco came from 40th place to 22nd there. So he's been rewarded by keeping a level head.
Oh, dear.
Gianni Rispaldo.
I think you missed your breaking point there, and in fact he's taken the tow back to the pits. I don't know what's happened there for Gianni, but yeah, the rest of your field working the way through the end of the race there. But wow, that was an action-packed race there, David.
I'm not massively surprised, to be honest with you. We called it 3 long straights where you can really pick up a toe, and that sort of kept the packs together, kept the battles going, and gave us the action where Mike McCormick is your winner there, 5 seconds clear of Russ Addy, just pipping Stefan Rostian to those spots on the podium. And a bit of a gap to Granheim in 4th, Leroy Coppage in 5th, Greg Garris 6th, Paul Stump 7th, Kenneth Baldwin 8th, Bob Kern in 9th, Greg Gilman got 10th place there, and then in 11th went Urs Muller, Jack Turner, Mark Robertson, Bruce Poole, John Unsby, Joel Martin, Michael Bailey, Bob Cohen, Gene Moore, and as we saw, Douglas Beasley into the top 20 with 5 positions gained.
Yeah, and this is where you see the rest of your field then. Shoemaker, after having his redesign of his Indy Pro 2000 car, Richard Franco, Barry Hills, Kenneth Dummer, Richard Coulomb, John Arles, Donald Fitzgerald, Richard Varley with his couple of issues in that race, John Morgan, that's a disappointment for John, and Gianni Rispaldo. And then, our graphics have messed up a little bit there, so we'll tell you what it says in the session. So it is Wendell Lowe ahead of Pierre Dion, Dev Donnelly, Richard Earl, Donald Poole ahead of Lewis Canal, Gerhardus Jorison and Davis Costello with Jerry Kerr in 39th, and Jared Florison is in 40th place. And then the rest of the cars, Ivan Anderson and Wally Malsby, with Kurt Messick not appearing to take the start.
How good is that graphic? There was no one in 43rd, allegedly. What we will do though, before we take a break for race 2, is bring in Ross Addy, second place in race 1 there. Tell us about the weather, the state of the track, and Road America.
Well, the track's in great shape. I mean, the weather's fine. I think it's a little bit hot, a little over 100 degrees. And Road America is challenging. There's a lot of corners where it's just touch and go.
Definitely looked like the grass was a temptation that was tripping up some of the drivers, and also in the later half of the race, any struggles with the rear tire temperature?
No, the back end was getting a little twitchy, but it's you just got to manage it. It was a little my mistake at the end there with John Morgan. So first I want to apologize to him. He slid a little, left the door open, and when you're racing, you got to go for the gap.
If only there was a very, very famous quote about that particular situation. I mean, gonna back it up for race 2 here at Road America. Any particular corners that have got your attention the most?
The one up underneath the, I guess the bridge there, that hard left-hander, that one's really difficult. And then the downhills when you're behind someone, the draft does make braking a little bit of a challenge. I just have to qualify better.
Yeah, absolutely. Coming from 10th to 2nd, 16 laps to do it, sure, but was that a bit of luck to find yourself in the right place, or were you just picking them off one at a time?
I just creeped up there slowly. There were a lot of people that made tiny little mistakes, and that's what I said with John. I think he slid a little before the corner where I touched him, and that allowed me to get up beside him. And then Stefan and I battled at the very end. It was a tough race.
Well, Ross Addy, second place to your name, fastest lap of the race to your name, and we'll see you again for race 2 in not too long. But if we don't get to chat with you, anyone you'd like to thank?
Well, of course, my racing team, TNT Racing, and my partner, Randy. We work hard to do well and try to stay clean. So, all the guys are great to run with.
Thanks so much for coming in, chatting with us, and we'll see you on the track again in not too long.
Yep. Thanks, Paul and David. Hope to see you again.
There we have it, Ross Addy from second place in race 1. We are going to take a little break here on RaceSpotTV. Like I said, when we come back, race 2 of the round for 60 plus racing adventures at Road America. Another generous helping, more of the same, please. See you soon.
One of the 2 requirements in order for your license to be promoted is your minimum participation requirement, or your MPR. Your minimum participation requirement requires drivers to run a certain number of races at their current license level before being allowed to graduate to the next license. The status of your MPR can be found in your iRacing profile, which you can find by clicking on your helmet in the iRacing UI and viewing your profile. From there, click on the Licenses tab. This box will show you your MPR obligation for all 4 licenses and what you need to do in order to complete the requirement. All rookie level series allow you to fulfill your rookie MPR obligations, but as you move up the ladder, it can be hard to know which series will contribute to your current license. To find out, look for the green MPR Up icon in the series description on Tile mode, or the green Up arrow in List mode. Keep in mind that only completing your MPR obligations will not allow you to advance your license level. You must also satisfy your safety rating requirements in order to advance. MPR can also be achieved by running time trials, which we will cover in a separate tutorial. When you start your career on iRacing, you'll find yourself with 4 rookie licenses, one for each discipline of racing featured on iRacing. Each of these licenses are independent of one another and are affected each time you compete in an event on this discipline. iRacing's ranked series are separated by license level, with more entry-level cars requiring a lower license and higher class cars requiring a higher license. You can visit the Current Series tab under the Go Racing header in order to see all of our active series during any given season and learn which cars and tracks are being used at which license levels. If you're just looking to enjoy top-tier cars from championships like the NASCAR Cup Series, NTT Data IndyCar Series, or World of Outlaws, you're able to do that right away as an iRacing rookie with series like the Carburetor Cup, Dallara Dash, Pickup Cup, or Sling Mud for Fun. These series are unranked, and competing in them will not affect your safety rating, minimum participation requirements, or iRating. To find other unranked series, filter the page you are on for the Unranked tag, and any unranked series will be sorted onto your screen. Likewise, to filter these series out, select the Ranked tag, and any unranked series will be hidden from your view. Of note, user-created races, like leagues and hosted sessions, are also unranked and do not affect your safety rating or minimum participation requirement.
The field is rolling on the back straightaway.
Get ready, this is going to be tight. Out of turn 4, ladies and gentlemen. The All-American 400 is underway.
Got to be careful. The bumps here can get you every time. Entering the corner, exiting the corner.
Want to get rewarded for just showing up to race? Our race participation credit program is the answer. It allows you to earn up to $10 per season and up to $40 per year in iRacing credits by just participating in races. This extends to any series found within the A through D class license ladder, with D or C class series earning you a $4 credit and A or B class series earning you a $7 credit. You can then apply this credit towards new content, private hosted sessions, or even just extending your membership. Credits are earned by completing 3/4 of an official series season, with drivers having to complete 50% of the laps in each race in order for the race to count towards the total. You can find how far along you are in the program by going to your profile and clicking on the Licenses tab. More information about this feature, including the minimum requirements to complete the program, can be found by clicking on the Race Participation button on the home page of the iRacing UI.
Welcome back, 60 plus racing adventures from Road America. It's time for race 2, but before race 2, it's time for qualifying. 10-minute session with about 2-minute laps means it's going to take you at least 6 minutes to get your 2 flying laps in. Here's the circuit, here is the weather. Look inside, here is the people. So not much to speak of for wind or anything like that. But track temperature's still definitely on the warmer side, Paul. Yeah, very much the possibility. A lot of time at wide open throttle here. Maybe more so compared to some other circuits on the calendar. I'm hearing that if you spend the whole time without a draft, might actually have you on the near side of the low fuel light. So actually just rolling along in the pack for a lap or two might not be the worst idea in the race, but in qualifying for Mike McCormick as he starts his first flying lap, it is full push into turn 1. It's looking like a tidy line to me. Well, for a first flying lap, I think anything in the 2-minute dead is definitely a respectable first effort, and you can see it's enough to have him at the top for the moment, ahead of Shoemate, and Russ Addy's going to slide himself in there. Leader of Coppage adds his name to the list of drivers with their first qualifying lap. Plenty of time to put that second one in as well. Most of our drivers, though, were definitely in a rush to get out of pit lane and get on track, get their laps done. And hey, I'm not going to call that a foolish decision. I think the track temperature is only going upwards from here. Yeah, that's normally what you see. Drivers aim for the first lap as a bit of a banker lap, something to stick to the board in case the next lap doesn't, something with just a little bit of caution left on the table. But then the second lap is where you go all out, give it everything, and potentially the tyres are in a better working window after that second lap as well. Yep, great lap there. Found a little bit more time, enough to put him to the top, just 0.07 of a second ahead of Mike McCormick. Donald Poole, as yet, no time on the board. That's interesting to see. So he might have had an incident on the first one. No, it definitely had a bit of a wiggle there. Thankfully, it's not a massive long straight out of that corner, and he can gather it up across the top of the hill and out the final corner. And from here, it's just looking at the number, keeping the throttle pinned till the line comes up to meet you. And what's it going to be for Donald Poole? It's not going to be pole. It's not going to be the top 5. It's going to be 9th for Donald Poole. And I would say, with looking at about 36 cars for race 2, that 9th is not so bad, especially seeing Russ Addy came from 10th to 2nd in race 1. So, all things considered, it's a start. Yeah, I mean, top 5 is definitely where you expect our race winner is going to come from. Somewhere around there. So almost everyone has thrown in their qualifying times. A couple drivers still out there just for the practice. That includes Donald Poole, Don Fitterer, Bob Kern, and Gianni Rispaldo. We saw... I'm not sure what we saw from him in race 1. But here and ready for race 2. Actually, Rispaldo's on a flying lap in 48. That's a great question. The answer is yes. No, some things do set our timing screen alight, as in they, burn it down, but that one, it was not one of them. So they're going to line up on the grid. We're going to have our full pace lap once again, and then get underway for race 2. Grid will be as such. Front row, John Morgan and Mike McCormick. Behind them, Russ Addy and Greg Garris. Then for row 3, it's Paul Stump, Stefan Roschen, and row 4 is Randy Shoemake and Leroy Coppage. Donald Poole and then David Costello is the top 10. Fitterer starting from 11th and Jack Turner in 12th. Let's look at the rest of the grid then, which is going to be Michael Bailey, Douglas Beasley, Gerhard Jorison, Richard Coulomb, John Isles, Robert Isle, Gianni Rispeldo, caught a glimpse of, just beating the stopwatch. And then Jerry Kerr, Wally Molesby, Pierre Zione, and I think Dev Donnelly for 36. You can see our last 3 drivers there. No qualifying time, but still 36 beautiful Indy Pro 2000s roll away behind the safety car. Pace lap, the formation lap here at Road America for race 2. Going to take it upon myself to personally find a title sponsor for this league. Do you know anyone who sells arthritis cream or anything? They sell themselves, they really do. Don't want to alarm you, but how's the cloud cover on track? Quite a bit cooler than last race. I'm not sure that'll last. It certainly actually makes just a little bit of a change. Could have sworn we started race 1 out of it closer to 98 or something. It's all give or take a little bit within the same range. Just curious to see about that one. As you can see now, they've worked their way around the far end of the circuit, and there is shadows across the circuit on the entry to Canada corner, as there often is. And hashtag soon when we get rain, those shadows from the forest there at Canada corner is what often keeps the track cool there, and maybe some surprise puddles in that kind of section of the track. Definitely tall trees both sides of the circuit there, reminiscent of the Nürburgring Nordschleife. The elevation change around here, not quite so reminiscent of that, but the racing Fantastic. So the safety car gets ready to dive for pit in, and there's some beautiful flashing lights there at pit in. But John Morgan, Mike McCormick are the front row of the grid, and they put the power down to get race 2 underway from Road America. Russ Addy and Greg Garris on the row behind. Under a bit of pressure, as it almost looks like Paul Stump from the third row wants to move his way forward. Let's take another angle at turn 1, and that angle is from on board your pole sitter. He comes in the corner, the rear is loose, he's fighting it, and well, he just never gets it back. Cleverly though, does keep it out of the wall, but then he's looking at every single position that he is losing. He wasn't the only casualty lap 1 either. Yeah, that's the extra pushy low downforce setup and spin behind there. Cold tyres, lap 1. Catching them out a little bit. Here's the replay. Downhill. Yeah, well, could have been. You can see he's lost the rear in the middle of the corner there and spun it around, found the barrier. So, bruising first lap so far. We have ticked over onto lap 2 though, and Russ Addy is your leader. He's snuck on past, especially helped by dramas for John Morgan, for example. Scott McCormick, Greg Garris, Paul Stump following him along at the front of the pack here. And a little bit of an air gap to Randy Shoemake, leading a couple cars for 5th place. I was under the impression that people who enjoyed too many of those products didn't make it to 60 plus. That's what I'd been told, but nonetheless the racing continues, where Russ Addy has his lead out to 0.6 of a second. Does he fancy breaking that toe, trying to put a little bit more gap between him and the rest of the field? Might just help him out if he can do it, but that is a tough ask still, as McCormick is going to get that draft slipstream advantage, as I've tried to put the two words together unsuccessfully. Roastgen, big moves in race 1, going for some moves in race 2 as well, putting Randy Shoemake back a spot. It's a position gained for Stefan Roastgen. Yep, so it was bouncing across the curb there as well for Russ Addy, making the sharpest line he possibly could. First place changes once again though. McCormick to the lead. Had 3 leaders now by my count in as many laps. Morgan, and then McCormick, and then Addy, and then I think McCormick again. Yes, let Roshan get away in 5th there, but right behind, you see that Shoemake not going forward at the moment in the race. Losing out to Coppedge, and now Costello, I think, has a good run at him in yellow and orange. So close up the hill to the right-hand side of the circuit. What hurts here, though, is that his competitor is still in the draft, and he's had to pull out, and that makes it tough to make a move going forward in the pack. It's not going to dissuade Costello, though, as he bombs it down the inside into turn 1. Grabs the spot. Yep, that he is. Addy much deeper on the brakes around the outside though. He's going to hold on to 2nd. He's definitely troubled for a moment there by Greg Garris, as there's under a 2nd to separate your top 3, as you see on board from the 3rd place man. Everything is bigger in Texas because there's 2 of them in the top 3. I think you've got, Greg Garris approaching Russ Addy, rolls out of it, backs off it, but I think there's about 4 approaches to the carousel there. Number 1 is, bomb it in, slow it down a bit in the middle, and then diamond it back for a 2nd apex. There's stay wide, wait, take a late apex. There's just hug the inside the whole way around for the shortest route, and option number 4, which is bomb it in, don't slow it down enough, and make a dog's breakfast of it. I've tried all 4 consecutive laps. Douglas Alexander Rossi Beasley we ride on board with. He's watching the battle in front, and that it's still in 6th gear. Paul, can our dear viewers hear you?
Oh, they sure can now.
Fantastic, lap 5. Paul Smith joins us once again. He's been working hard for nothing. Working hard for something, though, is these guys here. Look at Stefan Rostjan trying to get a good line as Addy and Garris fight in front.
as, well, up over the curve.
That's not a great line for him.
No.
I'll stop saying such lovely things if he's then going to go and contradict me immediately. He's trying to make me look as silly as you look.
Oh, thanks. Thank you for that. As Garris to the inside, doesn't need to worry about Addy getting the slipstream there. And onto the brakes into turn 1, and that's up ahead of Addy. But Addy can be content with that and just wait behind, and the run out of turn 3, get on the power.
You got options, don't you? Still early in the race, with some way to go. Mike McCormick, look at that, 1.7 seconds. He's actually managed to get away from these other guys in their battles and their foibles. So Garris, he's got second pretty comfortably there. It's Addy who's sort of looking forward, looking backwards, sort of making a lukewarm attempt of it where he's not moving forward, but he's sort of also trying to block out the guys behind. Rostian, I don't know, maybe this track suits him. He's sort of become the master of just picking them off a little bit, moving forward, and hasn't been a qualifying expert in this car. There's a bit more consistency out of his race.
Certainly giving it a go. In the carousel. And, well, he's definitely getting the pressure on to the drivers in front of him. And right now he's just got to wait that patient waiting game. There's what, 10 laps or so remaining of this, 11 laps to go in this race at the moment. But he's got time. He doesn't have to force the issue here to Stefan. And he got a good result in race 1, so he'll be looking to try and get a good one here, or maybe an improvement in race 2.
Just been looking up and down the timing screen to reliably inform you, Stefan Rostian, one of 2 drivers on the grid with more I rating than me, so he would put us young whippersnappers to shame. Very capable driver, and brings the results home typically. He's just waiting in behind Garris and Addy.
Addy though, look at how close he is to Garris there, out of turn 1 through 2 into 3, but it's that run out the corner that Addy doesn't really seem to get, that Stefan Rostian gets coming down through turn 4, so Stefan decided to make the moves.
Yeah, so he does. Paul Stump's the one waiting patiently, but Stefan Rostian now is taking his chance, looks to the inside, and hasn't been maybe as forceful as he needed to be to get that one to stick. Looking backwards from Russ Addy. That's quite a different font to what Rostian has on his rear wing.
But if you're going to get some advertising, that's the perfect spot to do it. Yeah, coming around the carousel, and Stump taking that wider middle of the corner at the back of this little group of cars. So again, we've seen there's different lines coming into effect for these drivers. But Garris, he'll be desperate to get a second place at least, because it wasn't the best of first races for him. Still, decent result, but this is a lot better in the second race. But Rostian putting the pressure on him in third. Well, not just Rostian, but also Addy putting the pressure on him in third and fourth places.
Yeah, slightly fewer trains, slightly few battle packs than we had race 1, but at the pointy end it's still the same action. Here goes Addy down the inside for second place. I think he's timed that one rather well, because that looks like a good clean move. But then you find yourself very vulnerable then on the very next straight, as you sort of link up from the pit straight onto this sort of middle straight underneath my favourite flavoured bridge.
Now, you see, they got rid of my favourite flavoured bridge because they got rid of the Johnsonville's sausages.
Yeah.
So they got rid of that this time. But there we go. Garris down the inside in second place. And that's almost a little bit of the problem with making that move down the start and finish straight. It's just you're immediately under attack. It's almost better to wait and make that move into turn 5, because then you've got a series of corners where you can maybe try and just get a little bit of a gap ahead of the rest of them.
Yeah, it's almost a foregone conclusion trying to build a gap in a little pack like this, though. But certainly I agree with you. You know, if you get a good run out of 5 and then through the next couple series of corners, including the big carousel, then that's when you might be able to put in enough of a gap. You're no longer under quite so much pressure. So here it comes once again. Are they going to swap 3 times on 3 straights in this lap? I think they are. Addy's looking for second place down the inside. Stefan Roschen might be starting to grow impatient, and same too his German compatriot in Paul Stump there. There we've got it. 3 position changes in 3 straights on the same lap.
Yeah, so it goes to show how strong the slipstream is around here. By the way, Mick McCormack has just checked out at the front of your field again, and he's enjoying life up in first place. But these drivers, because they've been switching position back and forth between the 3 of them, it's slowing each other down, and that's a problem you get involved in here. Is Jack Turner and Bob Kern battling for position down there in 10th and 11th place. Randy Shoemake and Donald Poole as well involved with David Costello. Costello hoping to get a better run this race than the last one. And Shoemake as well getting involved in incidents at the end of last race. So they're almost going 3 wide down the straight. In fact, they're trying the best.
It's brave from Costello, who still has all 4 wheels on his wagon. More than could have been said from race 1. He's looking for where on earth he was going to go, and he's ended up a little boxed out of the fight. The big winner there is Donald Poole. It's now Shoemake and Costello where the attack is. Tries he might look this way, look that way. Costello's yet to get past Randy Shoemake.
David got very, very close to the right rear of Randy Shoemake then. Very close indeed on the entry to turn 6. But great driving from the 2 of them. Jack Turner actually has moved ahead of Bob Kern again, so those 2 have switched positions back again. And this is what we're getting throughout your field, is just the changing of positions back and forth, and it's those little packs that you get, isn't it, that is really showing here in today's race.
Absolutely, it is, especially around about here with Addy, Garris, Roschen, Stump, and Leroy Coppage, who's joined the party, where they're all pretty consistent. They're all of a similar pace, and that makes it so hard for anyone to break away, because they can't rely on a little mistake from one of the other guys opening up a second where they can break the slipstream and get away. They're all consistent enough that they're all kind of stuck together, and Roschen getting very close to that rev limiter there, but they'll go wide. Wide goes Garris. Roschen, wise to it, finds himself back in second.
Yeah, big mistake there from Garris. Just missed the apex. And as we've seen with a few drivers through turn 1, running out wide off of the racing line, the car just wants to head for the grass there. It's almost like it's got a magnet attached to the car, and that grass is made of metal. But there you go. Down a position is Greg Garris, but he won't be... I mean, he'll be a little bit upset with himself for making that mistake, but it's not the end of the world, because he's still in that slipstream at the moment.
Yeah, indeed, and I think there was a lock-up from Addy there. All of a sudden, Roschen's all over the back of him, and there was a puff of smoke in the air. Hey, you can almost read Roschen's rear wing from Russ Addy's rear wing now that they're close enough.
But again, look at this. You've got 3 different lines being taken by 3 different drivers there. So, we keep on mentioning about the 4 different lines. Well, you've got 3 of them taken up right there. I'm glad nobody took the 4th option. But look at the run that Roschen gets through the kink there.
Yeah, motoring away, looking for second. That's down the inside, clear and easy. Garris right in the picture as well. Oh, big wiggle on the curb, on the exit. Ross Addy swoops back and they go side by side. Addy gets second place back, and then Garris trying to switch up in amongst it as well. You can tell we're in the second half of the final race. It's starting to get a little touchy.
Yeah, as the conditions get hotter out there, I'm sure David will be able to tell us the track temperature, because I can't see it at the moment. But
36.7, still slightly cooler than last race. I'm telling you, man.
Yeah, well, but it still will be affecting these drivers with those tyres, with those rear tyres, getting a lot of energy through them. Look at the race lead, by the way, 4.5 seconds at the moment.
I won't count any of these chickens before they hatch, but Mike McCormick's at least the prince of Road America at the moment. If he can bring home a clean sweep, that'd make him the king. No one's going to catch him the way they're going like this, because Roschen squeezes across. Down the inside, Garris makes contact. Stump and Coppage make their way through without any problems there. Russ Addy gets a tag from behind.
Here we go then, on board with Garris. This is where you'll get to see what happened then. So you can see the run that Roschen gets with the slipstream. And I think Greg is just going to get caught out, because I think Addy's going to get on the brakes a little bit earlier. And there you go, into that rear corner of the car. We'll take another look, this time from on board with the 111. Bang! Right in there. Damaged that rear suspension. And, well, I say damaged that rear suspension, it magically reappeared. But there you go. Back up and running with all four wheels on his car. But he will have some damage affected his top speed there.
Yeah, there's no way that car's still going to be perfect. And it sort of looked like... like decision fatigue there kind of thing. You had the two guys side by side in front of him. They were chopping and changing. He wasn't sure which one he was going to follow, and then into the corner a little bit too hot. Once you lock one of those tyres, you're still going to sail forwards. And then Garris, the contact that we saw. Update on the positions then. Over 5 seconds the lead for McCormick. Roschen's got a little bit of time in his pocket. And Poole and Garris battling here. Wonder what the damage might be on the front left for Garris. It's bad now. He's got a big yellow circle on the car.
Well, that was pointing out that his front wing, you'll see it better there, that front left wing, part of the wing, is damaged, and that has a significant effect to this car. It really does. You wouldn't imagine that it would affect it top speed wise too significantly, but even that little bit of damage there will cause him to be at least 6 or 7 kilometers an hour slower than the rest of the cars that are undamaged.
Yeah, I'm looking to see if I can maybe get a check on the end of straight speeds at some point, but there are some drivers lining up that could swallow up Greg Garris, send him back a couple of positions. That's David Costello and Randy Shoemake, who we ride on board with. Look at the understeer.
Yeah.
There for Garris. That thing just would not turn. He's invented the 5th line. Or we're going to call it 3.5 maybe.
It's the wall of death line, I think, is what that is. But look at this. Costello, so easy. It's too easy for him to get past, and he does. And here comes Shoemake as well. And Randy Shoemake will take that position. And I think really now, if you're Greg Garris, with the amount of time that's left in this race, you've got to take that gamble and stay out there and hope that you get a better result than race 1, but it's going to be a very tall order if that car is understeering significantly.
Yeah, it looked a nightmare through the long corners there. He just wasn't getting grip on the front. It's hurting in the straight line as well. Here comes Russ Addy to catch up with him. Roschen had a bit of time in hand for second place. Bit of a scruffy lap. couple second or so lost on the lap just gone, and suddenly Coppage right with him for the final makeup of the podium potentially. Paul Stump not far behind as well in the Leighton House looking livery.
It is the Leighton House livery, I can tell you that.
That's why it looks like it.
Yeah, it does. I was a fan of the Leighton House as well back in the late 80s into the early 90s.
When Adrian Newey had hair?
Yes, absolutely, and before their CEO got done for fraud, but that's enough said about that. Anyways, they head on down the Hurry Downs towards turn number 8, and the two of them, Rushton, Coppage. Coppage seems to have the quicker car at this point of the race.
Well, it's definitely faster last lap, but something was off, maybe a mistake for Roaston. You remember when we were looking at him earlier, exit of Canada corner was a struggle putting the traction down, so maybe something for Roaston has hurt the rear tyres. That looks like the normal slipstream, I think. I was wondering, maybe he'd picked up some aerodynamic damage.
Coppage was backing off.
Go.
Yeah, Coppage was backing off down that straight there. So I think he was waiting. By the way, Garris has lost enough position to Turner.
Yeah, still sinking backwards with the front wing. A lot of drag, not a lot of downforce, really hurting him in the corners, hurting him in the straight, making the punching bag everywhere. 6.7 seconds the lead for McCormick, and then second and third, where Coppage seems to have found just a little bit of patience, apparently.
Yeah, maybe doing just that little bit of last minute fuel saving if he's been pushing hard. Just get a lap or two in that slipstream, look after his car, look after his tyres, because he can manage the tyres. If they are overheating slightly, you could just cool them down a little bit by not quite putting the same forces through them. And that means then you can really attack towards the end of the race here, and that's exactly what he's doing right now. Still close up behind Russ Addy, by the way. Bit of a recovery drive for him, currently in 8th place now. And he's all over the back of Randy Shoemaker and David Costello.
Yeah, too right he is. David Costello up 4 positions from the qualifying.
Oh, Ross
Randy Shoemaker, right where he qualified. Stefan Roaston, big problems. There's also a lap car with damage there in the fence. I think that's around about the Hurry Downs, but potentially. So it is. So we ride on board with Stefan Roaston. Well, he was trying to defend Coppage.
Oh, please don't say it's this car in front. Oh, it's slow. It's really slow. And that's caught out Stefan through there. It's a tricky corner. It's really a one-line corner, is that, isn't it? Through there, David. But we'll have a look off board. And he's just caught out by how slow that car is. I don't know why that car was going so slow through there.
I mean, it's pretty well flat out there, but it is one line. So if you think you're letting someone else through, you probably shouldn't do it on the racing line, where there is only one line at racing speed. That's tough for Roaston, and I don't think he really made a mistake there. Costello's under pressure from Shoemaker, though, now 5th and 6th this battle. Costello is going to defend the inside. Randy Shoemaker round the outside then finds some speed, and I think Costello might have given up on that one for the minute. Here comes Addy.
Yeah, so Addy up to 6th now. Good recovery after his contact with Greg Garris, who is still in 13th at the moment, but Costello fighting back against Addy. Penultimate lap here, by the way. 7.7 seconds is your race lead. Yeah, well, 8 seconds now, actually. McCormick is not just the prince, he's the king of Road America this week.
He's doing very, very well. He's been near enough untouchable. I just didn't want to put the jinx on him. Addy wasn't able to get around Costello. We saw that. Randy Shoemaker's going to try to bolt away in this one for the top 5. A lot of pressure on Costello right now. my graphic says that they're both Club Pennsylvania.
Well, it must be right. As they head on out the corner, heading in towards the kink, flat out. And look at how close Addy is now. Pulls out alongside. And we're trying to make that move and trying to make it stick. Canada corner is still not alongside. Costello giving the space, but can carry the speed outside of the corner and keeps the position just for the time being. But we're going to be starting the last lap of the race.
Exactly, McCormick crosses the line now. Start his final tour of the race. Coppage has gone fastest of everyone on that lap. Paul Stump then beats that. So they're finding some pace in second and third, but probably not enough to take a fight to the lead or to each other. It's all about Shoemate, Costello, Addy, and Costello's not let Shoemate get away on that one there, even though he looks a little under fire, and Addy's going to look down the inside of turn 3.
Trying to get the draft though. Costello, he's waited. He wanted that. Here he is. Slipstream. Make it count. Side draft coming into effect as well between the two of them. In towards turn 5, and Costello inside line onto the brakes. And that's it. You could get those positions switched and switched back so quickly around this track, and we've seen that perfectly a couple of times here in this second race. As he runs wide to Costello, that's not the best run. That's going to allow Addy to put the pressure on.
Yeah, top of the hill there's one of those corners that really relies on your memory and your peripheral reference points, because you can't see the apex of the corner until you're right on it. Across the top of the hill, you need to get your turn-in point correct. So easy to turn in too early or turn in too late, or just not be confident enough to carry the speed there. So that what could have happened for Costello, but he's gathered it up through the rest of the corners to keep just a little bit of time between himself and Russ Addy. But Mike McCormick not far from the checkered flag, where Barney, for the second time today, is going to pull that one out of the flag stand and wave it. And for the second time, it's going to be for Mike McCormick, who takes the clean sweep round 6 from Road America in 60 plus racing adventures. Mike McCormick, king of Road America, but the battles aren't done throughout the rest of the field, like Bruce Poole and Bruce Granheim and Barry Hills. Actually, it's not a Bruce versus Bruce.
It's the head on up there, and Barry Hills not quite close enough to use the slipstream to his advantage, and having to stay behind. In fact, backed right off at the end there. I think he actually ran out of fuel at the end there. Jenna Rispaldo and Douglas Beasley. Well, Beasley finished, 20th last race, didn't he? He's up in 18th at the moment, but he's involved in a little bit of a scrap for that position. As his car going slow, that's Bob Cohen, and I think that potentially is fuel. As, yeah, he's having to pull over, so fuel really tight for these drivers.
Yeah, so it is. We've seen now two drivers right. No, Beasley. No.
Get it.
And look,
360 no split up.
Style points on the rejoin or not? If it was anything but the last lap, I'd say no style points. But he's lost one position. He's still got fuel to make it to the end. I am giving that an 8 out of 10. Stuck the landing. And to the finish comes Douglas Beasley. Yeah,
across the line then. So we've just got to wait for the final couple of drivers to come across the line here. John Arles is the last driver on the lead lap here. A man who we saw without a front wing at one point in this race, and he's going to end up. He's going to end up with I believe, a 21st position. Is it in the end? I think so.
Yeah, he's picked off Bob Cohen because Bob Cohen's run out of fuel and had to tow. So that's unfortunate. Run it absolutely dry. Maybe a bit of pedal blending there, a bit of a lead foot, locking him up across the line. I can't give that an 8 out of 10. It's not quite as impressive, but that's John Arles to the finish, and he does grab 21st spot. Last car on the lead lap. Let's take a look from race 2 Our race results as they cross the line. Mike McCormick, your winner in the 99. 8 seconds clear. Handy little margin once again from Leroy Coppedge. Paul Stump finds himself on the podium in 3rd place. Just a little bit clear of Donald Poole in 4th. Randy Shoemake in 5th, ahead of David Costello in 6th. Russ Addy maybe nursing some damage there. Couldn't take the fight to those guys and get 7th. Jack Turner in 8th. Brought himself into the battle, but not in time on the final lap. And then Bob Kern in 9th. Bruce Granheim in 10th. Take a look. Bruce Poole in 11th. Barry Hills in 12th. Greg Garris 13th place. Again, nursing a very significant amount of damage to the end. Michael Bailey in 14th, Gene Moore 15th, Richard Coulomb in 16th place. Gianni Rispaldo gets 17th, and that makes him the biggest mover of the race from right at the back of the grid. 14 positions gained for the Italian Turtle. And then Douglas Beasley in 18th. We saw the no scope right at the end. Robert Isle 19th, and 20th place was Kurt Messick.
21st then John Isles, the last man on the lead lap, as we saw Bob Cohen then 1 lap down after running out of fuel out of Canada Corner. John Owensby, Joel Martin, Dev Donnelly, Lewis Cannell, Pierre Dion, Matt Robertson, Richard Varley, all 1 lap down, and 2 laps down or more Donald Fitterer, Stefan Rosgen, Gerardus Jorison, Jerry Kerr, Wally Moulsby, John Morgan, who, what a nightmare of a start for him, 35th, and then Kenneth Dummer rounding out your 36 positions.
Yeah, what a race, what a round, and let's all bow in the presence of royalty, because the king of Road America, Mike McCormick, the clean sweep. What is it about this track that suits you so well? Got Mike McCormick here, believe me. Mike, do you have a copy? My intro was for nothing because I, unfortunately, Paul, don't hear anything from Mike McCormick. He's tried to join us. Oh, what about now? I've hyped it up too much, Paul, and now it's let us down a little bit. I can see him trying to queue up the mic, but unless I'm doing something wrong.
No.
Can't hear our race winner, Mike McCormick.
What we'll do is we'll let Mike resolve those issues that he's having, and instead speak to the driver who finished in 2nd place today then, Leroy Coppedge. And Leroy, we saw how you went on in race 1 and now race 2, getting a podium position. Just talk us through your evening's driving there. Oh, Leroy, do you have a copy for us? It was going all so well, David, that they're copying what I did at the start of the 2nd race and have the microphones muted. We'll try this one more time. Leroy, can you hear us?
Hello?
Ah, here we go. We can hear you now. Yeah, so
I really want to say that they do all their talking on the track, but unfortunately they've tried to join us to have a word, and we are struggling to get voice from our drivers, because it would be interesting to pick their brains. Both of them, 1st and 2nd in race 2, have bagged some good points, put on a really strong display. And Paul, what do? Do we give them one more time?
Well, what we're going to do is allow you just to go and quickly have a word with them whilst I do a bit of what they call in the industry, which is vamping. So we'll bring up the results up on screen once again whilst we do that. So we've got Mike McCormick then, your race winner. Absolutely dominant display from him at the front of your field. It was, in the end, 8 seconds lead there at the front of this race. Leroy Coppedge, who also we're trying to get a word with as well, he finished second place, was involved in battles between him and Stefan Rosgen before Stefan had his little issue with those that back marker who was trying to get out the way and not able to do so. Paul Stump finishing in third place then. A relatively quiet race for Paul throughout that one, and Donald Poole just missing out on a podium position. But David, you have returned, and well, I've done my bit of vamping. Any news at all?
I wish I could bear good news, but not able to establish communications with race winner Mike McCormick or with Leroy Coppedge, regrettably. But as I said, first and second on the road, Mike McCormick asserting his dominance over Road America, taking strong haul of points and preventing anyone else from taking race win points as well. So at the halfway point of the season now, halfway done, halfway to go, that puts Mike McCormick in good position. Next week they head to Circuit, Spa-Francorchamps, and then into Lagos. And then they hit a bit of an American flavour to bring this championship home, don't they? Mid-Ohio, Barber, Mosport, and RaceSpotTV will be covering the finale at Watkins Glen, December 2nd. So for RaceSpot coverage of 60 plus racing adventures, I've been David Haynes, Paul Smith alongside me, Monkey with the typewriter, producing and also sharing his insights of this car, of the racing and of the track. It'll be us two once again December 2nd. We hope you'll join us for that one. We've crowned a king of Road America. Maybe we'll crown a champion of 60 plus racing adventures as well. Good night.